Greetings, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Topic UFO. Tonight, we're going to be speaking with Mr. Zen Benefiel. He is a blogger and curator of UfologyPRSS.com website. I met Zen via Facebook, and we got to talking, and thought he would make for an interesting guest on the show, since he's had some experiences himself, as well as this website I would like to show you guys. So, without further ado, Zen, are you out there, sir?
I am, and greetings, Earthlings.
Yes, Zen, how are you? How are you tonight?
I'm doing well, Rick. Thank you very much, and thanks for the time on the show.
Great, great. Well, I'm glad you were able to attend tonight. So, Zen, we first kind of met via this UfologyPRSS.com website, which is a very interesting website, and we'll get to that in a minute. But then we started talking, and you've had some experiences in your life, I guess you would say. What got you started in the subject of ufology?
Well, I kind of got drug into it. I didn't necessarily look for things, or my curiosity didn't get the best of me. When I was 5 years old, I heard a voice call out to me one evening. A few years later, I'm up in the corner of my bedroom watching my physical body get out of bed, climb out my bedroom window, walk across the neighbor's backyard, climb a fence, walk out into a 10-acre pasture, and rise up into an orange cigar-shaped cloud. And as soon as I would get to the perimeter of the cloud, my observer would become one with the participant. I'd go in the cloud, and I'd wake up in bed the next morning. Couldn't wait to go back. Now, from then, this happened probably a couple of times a month for a couple of years, and I would sometimes wake up with nosebleeds. Didn't really think about it at the time. After the experience, I couldn't wait to go back. Had very little recollection of what went on inside, other than it was just fun.
Wow!
So that's how it started.
Well, now I want to talk about this a little bit more. This cigar-shaped, I guess, craft. So you're in bed, and you hear something. Is that what it was? And you look outside?
No. I would awaken.
Awaken.
It's like an out-of-body experience. Okay, I would wake up in the upper corner of my bedroom, looking down on my physical body.
Okay.
And then I would watch my physical body do the rest of the stuff.
And you were a little kid at this time.
I was 8.
And did you talk to anybody about this, or was this something you kept? It was an inside job, huh?
Yeah. No, I didn't talk to anyone. However, many years later, now this was just west of Muncie, Indiana, rural Indiana, and when I was 23, many years later, we were getting ready to move to Phoenix, and I was walking through a metaphysical bookstore in Muncie, and this book falls off the shelf in front of me. Nobody else around, okay? This thing falls off on the floor, open, cover up. I walk over to it, and it's Strangers Among Us by Ruth Montgomery. And I pick the book up, I flip it over, and the first paragraph that my eyes are drawn to, paraphrased, read something like, the most common UFO contactee experience in the Midwest in the late 50s and early 60s was the orange cigar-shaped cloud.
Oh, my God. You're kidding me.
Yeah. So, what do you do with that? There was no one around me to go, hey, look what I found.
My life now has meaning. My God.
Yeah, there was many other things that happened in between that provided the meaning. So it was still, quite an awakening in that moment. It's like a domino effect where a bunch of things all of a sudden made sense.
Wow, that is bizarre. I don't think I've ever heard anything quite like that. Now, did these experiences, you said there was a lot of things that happened in between,
Hmm.
but did they continue as
To this
you
day,
you till to this day, huh?
yes. Yeah, it's gotten more and more intricately involved and uh, communication wise, the topic matter and material is much more involved with consciousness and creating kind of gates in the thoughtmosphere, if you will, that allow a higher vibratory or a higher reasoning, a higher thinking. Um, Ultimately, I was led to the understanding that we're cosmic consciousness condensed into form that we call bodies,
Mm-hmm.
and we're becoming aware of the layers of how that happens.
Wow. Now, these experiences you have, uh, do you refer to them as abductions? Do you refer to them as meetings? How do you describe them?
I've never felt like I was abducted. It's always felt like family. Um, Now I'm orphaned and adopted, so maybe there's something to that. Um, at the same time, I've never had a negative experience. I've had experiences that, had I not had the understanding or the prior awareness, it could have been. I mean, I woke up on a steel gurney one night on board a ship with electrodes lining my sphincter. And I woke up laughing because it was kind of embarrassing. There were three tall Zetas, the almond-eyed, taller ones that were up against the wall across the room from me. And I start pulling out the electrodes with, come on, guys, what the heck are you doing? Um, and I got to the last one, and I felt a sting. And I opened my eyes up, and I'm instantly back in my bed. Now, my first thought was, oh man, I want to go back, because I was right there. I was not afraid by any stretch, but I was there. I was fully conscious. I was on board. They were in front of me, and I wanted to go back because I wanted to finish that conversation, whatever it was, or that experience. And so I went inside, tried to go back, not knowing how, and I run into this humanoid-looking male figure that simply says, next time just relax. We're just trying to tune you up so we can communicate more easily. And, that may
through
sound kind of strange.
Yeah, through your sphincter.
Right. And the reason being, if you look at the science behind all of this, there's a nerve that ends in the sphincter that's a direct connect into the central nervous system. It's called the perineum.
Mm-hmm.
And I just so happen to have been studying the nervous system the previous week with my girlfriend at the time. She was studying to be a massage therapist. And so I was going over her anatomy class material with her. And that was one of the things that came up in our discussion. So, from a scientific standpoint, if there was another race that was going to somehow semi non invasively, plug in and work with us in order to adjust our own energy level or our vibratory rate, where would they do that? Well, the most obvious place, according to our physicality, would be in the sphincter.
Well, maybe this tells a lot about all the stories of the anal probes.
Absolutely, I believe it does.
Wow, I've never heard anything like that, Zen. That's amazing. Uh, I'm just curious on what your personal thoughts are. Uh, you know, I don't know, maybe it's a 50-50 split when you talk to people that have been abducted or say they have. Um, 50% say it was a good experience, 50% say it was not. Uh,
Hmm.
what do you think? Are there any particular reasons why somebody would feel it's not a good? Is it
Oh,
fear
absolutely.
or?
Absolutely, because they're not prepared.
I
You
see.
get thrust into a situation like that where in reality they turn the fear into an anesthetic for
Hmm.
your body and they paralyze you so that you won't hurt yourself or them. So, in that kind of experience where you're thrust into an environment that you have absolutely no awareness, clue, even though you may have thought, wow, this would be really cool, when you're in that place, you're in a completely different environment that is totally unfamiliar, and most people will feel fearful
Hmm.
in that kind of situation, and rightfully so.
And it's a total loss of control as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I personally feel that there is a deeper um, connectivity, if you will, from a consciousness level as far as the timing of these conversations and or these abductions or whatever you want to call them, these visitations. Okay, there is something more at a deeper level of consciousness that's going on a timeline that has more to do with um, the advent or the type of contact and the actual occurrence of it than most of us are aware of. Because in the nonlinear, non-local space, there's a lot more going on than we can even begin to imagine at this point in our own evolution.
So, and I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but
Yeah, we only got a half hour, dude.
exactly, exactly. We could sit here and talk about this for hours, but
Right.
the age old question, why are we here? Uh, have you been provided some insight into that question through these meetings?
Yes. And simply put, we're here to learn how to get along with each other. That's the bottom line.
And how do they think we're doing overall? Probably not very good, huh?
Well, look at the progression of a planetary civilization, if you will. And it starts off with little pockets of communities here and there, and they eventually grow to the point where their boundaries come up against each other, and you're having to deal with other people that you haven't so far, and you don't know what their cultural stigmas are, or how they communicate, what language they use, what color of skin they have. There's all of these outer things that tend to put up boundaries and barriers to entry, if you will, um, that are part of the process. And learning to look beyond that and understand that we're all searching for home on this ocean of emotion, if you will, and guiding our relationships to shore. Um, and, when you see things from that perspective, the longevity of the time frame that it takes for that to take place on a planetary scale puts things in more of a perspective. So yes, we're still pretty barbaric, but we're coming along. We're finally getting to the point where we're recognizing the natural rhythms and cycles, both of our own physical nature, our biophysical nature, and of the planet. So as we begin to understand these uh, in more of a both scientific and spiritual fashion, the two of them begin to blend more, and we have more uh, capacity for anthropic evolution, human
Interest,
friendly.
interesting. So, tell us a little bit about your book.
Zendor the Contrarian. Well,
Zendor.
that by the title, it might give you an indication. My views are kind of contrary to most. I've been through a lot of different religions. I've been through various schools of thought, disciplines, and found that there is more beyond them. They're a framework from which to move through. And as you can tell by some of the things that we've talked about already this evening, my direct experience gives me the opportunity to look at things from a little different perspective. That's Sam, by the way,
Oh,
who's he's decided to join us. Um, he adopted us about a year ago.
yes. I have two of them myself, so I understand.
He's got to get into the picture. He's my cosmic kitty. When he first showed up, he was sitting at the back door, and I opened it up, and he ran in. And for several days after that, he would climb up on my stomach as I was laying down, and he would knead my solar plexus. And just feeling the change in how I felt during that process and the change of my own energy was pretty healing at that time. So anyway, back to Zendor the Contrarian. The book itself it's kind of an autobiography, and it includes a lot of my personal thoughts and exploration and study into the various experiences and questions that came from them. Questions are only as good as what we can ask, and the depth of which we ask from, and the intelligence that we have in asking those questions. Every question has an answer. Are we asking the right ones?
And now, is this book probe into the whole UFO ET phenomenon, or is this
It does.
completely different? It does.
It spans the gamut between, well, the subheading of it is a seminal view into consciousness, cosmology, and the congruence of science and spirituality.
So, I want to talk a little bit, if we could, about your website as well, UfologyPRSS.com. How did this all come about? And tell us how you put that together.
Well, I was at a business mixer, and I met the folks that created the wireframe. It's actually a technology that's designed for the next level of digital publishing. So you can take any topic and plug it into this type of wireframe, or curation, or aggregate, I think is the more common term. So in talking with them, I got what they were doing, and I was excited. So we discussed a little bit further and came up with the Ufology Press, because I was getting ready to go to the International UFO Congress. And so we put this together. I went out and I researched the RSS feed, which is really simple syndication for those of you that don't know what that means. And the P before that means personalized. So you can actually personalize your own particular page by using the features of our website. And we've got, probably about 120 RSS feeds that are mostly ufology related, and things that are on, that spill out from that topic area. We've gotten to the point now where we just had our 10,000th visit since last February. We are about 50% return visitors as well, and 50% new visitors, which is a really great statistic to have. And our average visit is almost 3 minutes long, I think.
Excellent. And so what's neat about this website, rather than having to go search for a bunch of things, visit numerous websites, you can personalize this page to your own liking as far as the information that comes in, and it is constantly updated per your preferences, right?
Well, there's 120-ish RSS feeds that come into this website. So we've gone out and we've scoured the web and we've found what we thought were the best and plugged them into this aggregator. And so anytime there is a new post by any one of those bloggers, videographers, YouTube channels, Vimeo channels, any of those kinds of things, it shows up immediately.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. I mean, just a super use of technology. I would definitely suggest anyone into ufology go check out this site because it's a fantastic idea and it works very well from what I've seen and used from it. So
And it allows me to help support others, radio stations, shows,
exactly.
uh, authors, various things. It's advertising rich. We're attempting, the goal is to make this or to demonstrate that this is actually a new business model
Hmm.
so that it actually supports itself and that in every locale, let's say whether you're in Los Angeles or Chicago or New York, that you can actually designate the advertising for that geographic area. So it's kind of like a franchise.
I see.
So that allows, a bookstore owner or a promoter or somebody in that area that really likes what we're doing and wants to not only sell advertising for themselves, but use what we've put together in order to be able to do so.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, it's a beautiful website. Really looks nice, and the information, the way that it comes to you. It used to be people would build portals, where basically you went to this portal and then you had to go out to these other places. Here, the information is brought to you, which is
Right.
very convenient and very very nice. Plus, like
Well,
you,
and like I said before, it's the new level of digital publishing.
so I see also that you do workshops on self awareness.
I do.
What can you tell us about that, Zen?
Well, with with the things I've been able to experience, the research, the study, I've got two master's degrees in business as well. I've been involved with corporate training. I was a president-elect for the American Society for Training and Development chapter here. So not only what I find in other workshops is that, there's a lot of sages on stage, and that's great. There's a lot of information to share. My workshops differ in that I provide a direct experience for the people to actually enjoy and experience what it is that we're talking about as far as the levels of consciousness, going into meditations, having experiences of how to use their minds, their hearts, in ways that they know they've been capable of, but haven't necessarily been instructed in the particulars of how. I've been very fortunate in that since these things started with me at a very young age, that I was able to monitor and not necessarily monetize, but in some ways, I suppose, but to be able to utilize that understanding in order to, extend a hand and share what I found out so that others can benefit from that.
Yeah, I think that would make for a very unique training session to have a trainer that has had those types of experience. Something you couldn't get from a trainer that just went by the book, so to say.
Right. It's like going out and getting a coaching certificate and calling yourself a coach without having the life experience to back it up.
Exactly.
What I've also been able to do, which has been really fun for me, I'm a drummer, and I've been able to help produce some music that literally can take you out of this world. And so one of or several of the things we do actually is utilize some of the music I've recorded to help people move into those interior spaces.
I find it interesting that you brought up the whole music thing. I too have been a musician from a very early age, from school band and
Hmm.
rock and roll bands and all of
Played
that.
snare drum in the sixth grade.
I played clarinet, so I was the geek, in front of you.
Wow.
Um, but the whole thing with music, and I think creativity overall, uh, I think there is some type of connection
Oh,
between
absolutely.
creativity and these rogue frequencies that don't really come around during day to day type
Well,
things. You know what I'm saying?
absolutely. There's a couple of things that come to mind specifically. The first is a very academically related um, piece that music, when you are engaged in that, your science and math scores go up across
It's
the board.
Yep.
It's proven. Okay. Now, the other thing is a little beyond that, into the tones and frequencies. The Hindus call the sound current the shabda, which is Sanskrit for sound. And in this place, when you are really quiet, you hear a high pitched tone. And oftentimes, this is the same type of experience that happens with contactees. It'll start out as a very high pitched tone and gradually descend in pitch to where you feel like you're totally engulfed by this pulsing hum.
Wow. And is that for some type of relaxation technique or something, or
Well, I believe that it's a
a communication link? Or
these things are much more connected than what we may realize. They're more organic
hmm
in nature, and that biopulse is like the pulse of the universe. It's echoed and mimicked by mimicry, if you will, in our heartbeat. You know,
hmm
every heartbeat that we have, we expand and contract, or we explode and condense with each one.
Right.
And it happens at such a rapid rate that we aren't intellectually conscious of it, but energetically, this is what happens. And if you have the right diagnostic equipment, you can actually see this happening. You
Yeah.
know, so those kinds of things, this pulse, when you are in that experience and you're able to hear things at that level, it seems to permeate the basic foundation of the entire experience when you can get quiet enough to hear it. Oftentimes, our minds are racing because we've got so many thoughts and so many questions of the experience that we're in and trying to figure out what the heck's going on, that we are unable to actually hear. Um, we're too busy
hmm
to be quiet enough to listen and to ask a question and shut up, you know,
What?
and
Well,
wait.
I'm sorry. No, I was going to ask you. Haven't they done studies? Uh, you know, um, around like music that is produced in 4/4 time. There's a certain something about music that's produced in 4/4 time uh, that
Yes, there's been many studies, and I can't name them specifically, but yes, the music, rhythms, patterns, tones, frequencies, um, they all have an effect on our physicality.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Well, listen, Zen, we've reached the end of our time here.
And it goes by so quick.
It does. It really does. But of course, you're always welcome to come back anytime. I want to give a shout out for the website again, and I'll pull this up on the screen. It's UfologyPRSS.com, where Zen is a blogger and is the curator. And the name of the book is Zendor the Contrarian. And where can that be purchased, Zen?
Well, you can go to Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
Create Space. I mean, that's where I published it through, but it's on Amazon. It's not available as a Kindle version because it's quite a large book. There are shorter sections. I actually published three different books that I then compiled into that one. The shorter series is called Zendor the Barbarian. It's, I kind of tend to stir stuff up. But that can all be purchased through my website at bethedream.com,
Oh, okay.
and which also has information on the workshops, the books, the tapes, the CDs that I produced as meditations and also from the musical interludes of my life.
Oh, excellent, excellent. I'll have to check that out. Well, listen, been a very educational and insightful conversation. I've enjoyed talking with you, Zen.
Well, good. I hope that your viewers and your listeners were able to benefit from it. And by all means, if you have any questions or have a story to share and just need an ear, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm available. I'm pretty transparent, and I don't hide.
All right, very good. I'm sure you probably get someone, if not a few, take you up on that, Zen.
Good.
All right, Zen. Well, listen, thanks again, and we will stay in touch as always. And stay safe and keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks, Rick, and you too. And thanks again for having me on. And best wishes to the continued success of your show.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Good night, Zen.
Good night, Rick.
Bye-bye.
The answer is to keep it. You'll believe it when you find something screaming across your mind. Green
slime. The rest of the stuff.
And you were a little kid at this time.
I was 8.
And did you talk to anybody about this, or was this something you kept? It was an inside job, huh?
Yeah. No, I didn't talk to anyone. However, many years later, now this was just west of Muncie, Indiana, rural Indiana, and when I was 23, many years later, we were getting ready to move to Phoenix, and I was walking through a metaphysical bookstore in Muncie, and this book falls off the shelf in front of me. Nobody else around, okay? This thing falls off on the floor, open, cover up. I walk over to it, and it's Strangers Among Us by Ruth Montgomery. And I pick the book up, I flip it over, and the first paragraph that my eyes are drawn to, paraphrased,
Greetings, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Topic UFO. Tonight, we're going to be speaking with Mr. Zen Benefiel. He is a blogger and curator of UfologyPRSS.com website. I met Zen.
Would sometimes wake up with nosebleeds. Didn't really think about it at the time. I just, after the experience, I couldn't wait to go back. Had, very little recollection of what went on inside other than it was just fun. So
Wow.
that's how it started.
Well, now I want to talk about this a little bit more.
Sure.
This cigar-shaped, uh, I guess, craft. Uh, so you're in bed and you hear something. Is that what it was? And you look outside.
No.
Oh,
I would awaken.
awaken.
Um, it's like an out of body experience. Okay, I would wake up in the upper corner of my bedroom, looking down on my physical body,
Okay.
and then I would watch my physical body do all those.
In the subject of ufology.
Well, I kind of got drug into it. I didn't necessarily look for things, or my curiosity didn't get the best of me. Um, when I was 5 years old, I heard a voice call out to me one evening. A few years later, I'm up in the corner of my bedroom watching my physical body get out of bed, climb out my bedroom window, walk across the neighbor's backyard, climb a fence, walk out into a 10-acre pasture, and rise up into an orange cigar-shaped cloud. And as soon as I would get to the perimeter of the cloud, my observer would become one with the participant. I'd go in the cloud and I'd wake up in bed the next morning. Couldn't wait to go back. Now, from then, this happened probably a couple of times a month for a couple of years.
And via Facebook, and we got to talking, and thought he would make for an interesting guest on the show, since he's had some experiences himself, as well as this website I would like to show you guys. So, without further ado, Zen, are you out there, sir?
I am, and greetings, Earthlings.
Yes, Zen. How are you? How are you
I'm,
tonight?
I'm doing well, Rick. Thank you very much, and thanks for the time on the show.
Great, great. Well, I'm glad you were able to attend tonight. So, Zen, we first kind of met via this UfologyPRSS.com website, which is a very interesting website, and we'll get to that in a minute. But then we started talking, and you've had some experiences in your life, I guess you would say. What got you started